Hello everyone, myself Gautam Kumar, Assistant Professor MMICT BM, MM to University. My subject is System Analysis and Design, subject code is BC 204. Today my topic is information gathering. Content for the presentation are the introduction, what kind of information do we need, information about the firm, information about user staff, information about workflow, where does information originate, information gathering tools. These are the contents which we will discuss in today's session. The purpose of information gathering is to support the planning of your organization work to be more fully inclusive. It is important to look at the available facts, objectives, information including demographics and best practices. Information gathering is an art and a science. The approach and manners in which information is gathering required persons with sensitivity, common sense and a knowledge of what and when to gather and what channels to use in securing information. Information gathering is the step during the system development life cycle, and it is the most important phase for the system development or modification. Information gathering requires training and experiences. This means that information gathering is neither easy nor routine. In this session, we will discuss about categories and sources of information and functions, use and relevance of key informations and gathering tools during the phase of system analysis. The phases which are included in information gathering are as follow. The first one is the familiarity with the present system through available documents, interviews and online observation, defining the decision making associated with managing the system. This is important for determining what information is required for the system, conducting interviews for clarification for the decision points. In information gathering, we have some process or information gathering tools through which we acquire the information from different sources, and it could be external source or internal source to make the decision points, and for that we conduct some interviews and we provide some questionnaires to the party who are involved in the activities to fetch the information, and on the base of that fetched information we go for the further improvement or development of the system in system development life cycle. And once decision points are identified, a series of interviews may be conducted to define users information requirements. Information is gathered, analyzed and documented. The whole process of information gathering throughout the interviews or questionnaires will be recorded, and that will be compiled in the form of the documentation for the management purpose, for using them as a reference in somewhere during the if requirement of that document during the system development. Discrepancies between the decision system and information generated from systems are identified. During the information gathering, once we get the information, on the basis of that compiled or acquired information, we compare the decision system and acquired knowledges about the system from the users, and that if there is any discrepancies, that will be identified through this process. This conclude the analysis and set the stage of system design. After completing whole the process of information gathering, we will move to the system design phase during the system development life cycle, and it concludes all the analysis during the information gathering. Now, there is a question, what kind of information do we need? In organization there may be different working entities which are working together. So, it is a question what type of information we need for the information gathering process to make some decision points for the system design. Before one determines where to go for information or what tool to use, the first requirement is to figure out what information to gather. Before starting the process of information gathering, once I have to ensure from where I can get that required information. So, whole the study of getting the information or about the source of information is to be done, and on the basis of that study we easily know from where we can get the information and which type of tools someone has to use to acquire that knowledge or process that knowledge for the decision points. Much of the information we need to analyze relates to the organization in general, the user staff and the workflow. So, basically what we have to gather in the term of information, we have to gather or acquire the information about the organization, about the user staff who are working in that organization, and the workflow, how that organization will work, what are the functionalities, what are the operational procedures are there to be followed for achieving the organizational day to day tasks. All these information will be gathered for making the decision point that will set the stage of the decision stage of the system design. So, on the screen you have a diagram in which we have clearly see that we can clearly see that which type of information we required. Policies, goals, objective and organization structure. So, we have to acquire or gather the information about the policies, and that policies are related to the organization. What are the policies of the organization for their employees, for the clients or for the vendors? That information we have to gather. The goals, what are the goals of that organization, what are the objectives and what are the organization structures, the hierarchy, how there are different level of management, how they are handling all the management process in the organization. This type of information can be gathered from the organization structure. So, all four points that are policy, goals, objectives and organization structure, that will be for the organization. We will acquire here the information about the organization by getting the knowledge or information about policy, goal, objective and organization structure. Secondly, for getting the information about the user staff, we have to get the information about the authority relationship, who are authorized for any function or who are governing any department or any operation in the organization. Job functions, which type of job roles are there in the organization and how they are doing their jobs, and what are the operations which are covered for a specific job in the organization for a user. And information requirement, what they feel about the currently system and what they want the updation or development of new system, that will be on the basis of information requirement that are related to the user and staff in the organization. Interpersonal relations, that is how the staffs are working with each other, how they are treating each other in the organization, or we can say that that is the behavioral analysis. These 4 points are related to the user staff information, and the last one is the work itself or the workflow. In the workflow, how the process are getting done, how one process is dependent on each other, how they are grouped several there may be possibility there are some functions or operations that are compiled together and performing a given task in the organization. So, how the work is going done through the initial state to its final state, that will be described through the workflow, and methods and procedures, which type of methods and procedure we are using for doing any work in the organization, and work schedules. Work schedules, sometimes in organization there are different tasks, so they have some schedule, like it can be a meeting, it can be a training session, it can be a introduction session about the organization for the new employees or new users. So, all these information will be gathered for the work, and on the basis of the information about the organization, information about the user staff or information about the workflow, that will be compiled and documented, and the whole process of information gathering will be completed on that step. Information about the organization. Information about the organization's policies, goals, objectives and structure explains the kind of environment that promotes the introduction of computer based system. Company policies are guidelines that determine the conduct of business. The guidelines through the whole the process of business is governed is the policy of that organization, and policies are most important part for the any organization, and if we have a best policy, our organization will sustain. If we are not having the policies as good or as per the requirement, the business will not be sustained for a long time. So, on the basis of the policies or goals, the environment for the development or implementation of the computer based system will be studied, and the policies are translated into rules and procedures for achieving the goals. As we have discussed, policies are the guidelines for conducting a business, and that guidelines will be converted to the rules and procedures which we have to follow for achieving the goals. And all the companies and organization have its goals. Policy will help the organizational executives or management to achieve the goal. A statement of goals describe. Now, what are the goals? The goals describes the management's commitment to objectives and the direction system development will follow. And objectives are milestones of accomplishment toward achieving goals. Objectives can be of many types, and these are the milestones. Once we have obtained any objective or covered any objective, there will be a next objective on the path of the organization towards the goal of that organization. Information from manuals, pamphlets, annual reports, etc. help the analysis to get an idea of the goals of the organization. These things like manual, pamphlet and annual reports, these are the type of different documents which are related to the organization and released by that organization for the public issues. After policies and goals are set, a firm is organized to meet these goals. So, before starting a business, we have to create some policies, some goals and some procedures. Once we have drafted all the workflow for the organization and procedures, after that we from the organization to meet or to achieve these goals. The organization structure indicates management, directions and orientation. The organization chart represents after policies and goals are set, a firm is organized to meet these goals, and the organization structure indicates management, direction and orientation. Through that, the organization chart represents an achievement oriented structure. It helps us understand the general climate in which candidate system will be considered. In gathering information about the firm, the analyst should watch the correspondence between what the organization claims to achieve goals and actual operations. Policies, goals, objectives and structure are important element for the analysis. Now, we will discuss about the information about the user staff in any organization. Another kind of information for analysis is knowledge about the people who run the present system or the person who are involved in the functionality of that system in the organization, their job functions and information requirements, the relationship of their jobs to the existing system and the interpersonal network that holds the users group together. The main focus is on the roles of the people, authority relationship and interpersonal relationship, how they are connected, how they are behaving or how they have relationship with each other among the staff members in the organization. Information of this kind highlights the organization chart and establish a basis for determining the importance of the existing system for the organization. By studying all the things like authority relationship, interpersonal relationship of the staff will help in finding the importance of the existing system for the organization. Thus, the major focus is to find out the expectations of the people before going in for the design of the candidate system. So, what the user wants in the system or information system which is about to develop for the organization can be studied throughout getting the information about user staff in organization. Now, we will discuss about the information about the workflow. As we have already discussed, workflow is the procedures how we are completing our jobs in the organization, and that workflow focus on what happens to the data through various points in a system. This can be shown by a data flow diagram or a system flow chart, and data flow diagram or system flow charts are the pictorial representation of the various functionalities which will be done through the system on a paper. A data flow diagram represents the information generated at each processing point in the system and the direction it takes from source to destination. Because basically if you are talking about any system, what is a system? System is a mechanism that takes input from the outside and process that input or data inside the system and after that generate some useful information for the user. And the whole functionality during conversion of that input to the desired information, that is the output, and on each step what the processing is generating can be represented by the flowchart or data flow diagrams. A system flowchart describes the physical system. System flowchart describes the physical system, how that system will look like. This information available from such charts explanation and the procedure used for the performing task and work schedules for that system. Where does information originate? From where we get the information? Information is gathered from two principal sources, that are personal or written documents from within the organization and from the organization environment. And information origination tools or sources can be of two types, the internal sources and the external sources. The primarily internal sources are the financial reports. Each and every organization release or generate its financial report. It may be quarterly, half yearly or yearly, and that will be released for the public issues or for the stakeholders who are involved in the proper functionality of that organization. The personal staff, we can get the information from the personal staff about themselves, okay, like we can get the information related to themselves. Professional staff, that are legal counsel, electronic data processing and the auditor. By consulting with the legal counsel, we can get the information about the legal issues of the organization. By EDP, that is the electronic data processing, we can get the data related to the organization. And the auditor, all the reports can be get from the auditor for a specific time or for a specific functionality. The system documentation or manuals. System documentation or manuals can help the analyst to study about the existing system in the organization. The user or user staff, and the sixth one, the reports and transaction documents. That reports can be a financial report, can be a purchase report, can be of any type related to human resources, policy makers and all the higher level decisions. The primary external sources are vendors, government documents, newspapers and professional journals. Sometimes we need to gather information from outside of that organization environment, and the vendor, government documents and the newspapers can help for the analyst to gather such type of information. Vendor can provide the information related to the business deals, how organization is dealing with its vendors. Government documents will provide all the information which you cannot get from the inside of the organization, and these government documents can be of any type, like government policies for the user and staff, legal procedures or any bill related to conduct of any business in the organization or any workflow. And newspapers, and professional journals. Newspapers can give you the data about the organization and about the related information to implement that system in the organization, and professional journals can give you and can help you to analysis about the new technologies and procedures to generate a system which can be implemented in the organization. For a specific type of organization, we can have a lot of literature review, and we can perform this type of task by the professional journal. So, we will discuss about the information gathering tools. No two projects are ever the same. The requirement of the different projects are different. This means that the analyst must decide on the information gathering tools and how it must be used. An important rule is that information must be acquired accurately, methodically, under the right conditions, and with minimum interpretation to user personnel. There are various information gathering tools. Each tool has a special function depending on the information needed. The diagram which is on the screen, you can see the various information gathering tools and the process how we organize the data after getting the information by applying information gathering tools on various sources of the information. So, information gathering tools are review of literature, procedures and forms, on-site observation, interviews, questionnaires, and the information generated or gathered by applying all four the tools for the information acquiring. We document that information and organize the data for decision points or designing a system. As we have shown that there are four tools for the gathering information, like review of literature. They are previously some projects, or there are previously some problems which have been solved by applying the information technologies. You can review for finding the solution of your problem for the system development or system upgradation. Procedures and forms, how we can generate the procedures and we can take that forms from the users for getting the information. On-site observation. In on-site observation, we or analyst who is responsible for the system study is a seeker of the information and has to visit to the organization premises. It is the totally different procedure. In review of literature, we can review literature by having some online data, having some online journals for reviewing that literature. But in the case of on-site observation, the physical presence of the analyst is must on the organization premises, and on organization premises, analysts observe the procedures, the users behavior, and there after observing all these things gather the information. And the third one is the interviews. By interview, the analyst can get the information from the person about their perspective and about the organization. And the questionnaire. The fourth tool is the questionnaire. In questionnaire, the set of questions is distributed to the persons involved in the process, and as per the questions they have to give the answers. The answers from all the users will be compiled for gathering the information or generating the information. In questionnaire, we have some questions, and these questions can be of open or closed. In open questions, the user is free to answer the question as their choice, but in the closed type of question, user have some set of answers, and among that set of answers user has to obtain the most related answer to the question. Same as we can have that in a structured or in a unstructured way for conduction of the interview and questionnaire. In next lecture we will discuss about all the 4 tools like review of literature, procedures and form, and on-site observation, interview and questionnaire. Thank you.